Can you speak up, Rudy?
Sorry. Hope everyone's good. Again, Rudy Herrera. I did this mural last year in partnership with Centro. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Centro is a nonprofit organization over here that, one of their departments is literally just to bring art things to the downtown area. And I kind of gravitated towards them. I'd worked with them before. I even did this one on another mural on Houston Street. I don't know if you're familiar, but I have another one over there. But whatever. Sorry, Arlene Wings. Sorry. But what I really like about them is that they work with a lot of people from Haven for Hope. And if you're not familiar, that's a lot of people that are just kind of like, needing their footing back into things, or just, maybe they had some bad luck and they just need a break, right? So they hire a lot of those people. A lot of times you see the people in yellow cleaning up. It's those people from there, right? So the time I spent downtown, I interact with those people a lot. Even before I did murals, I worked downtown. I was a river rat. I'm familiar with this strip of land even before they did all this to it, right? Like, this was a place we would kind of congregate to and just try to get away with whatever we could get away with, right? So this creek was kind of special to me, and it was almost like a full circle moment. And that's just my part of the story that pertains to the river. It goes back to like San Antonio. Right here we got the St. James AME Church, which it's this little slab right here. I don't know if you guys are familiar. I'm sure you guys are, but it was one of the first black churches bought from the, I forget the name. Leibowitz family? Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. But, and right there, the first jail, I'm sure you guys know. So there's a lot of history here, you know what I mean? And I think about, whenever I think about murals, it is a visual storytelling tool. So I think whenever you do stuff like that, and this is a big space, this is a big voice saying something, right? So to me, it makes sense to kind of just be respectful and acknowledge what's going on around it, right? And pay tribute and homage to that, because if you don't do that, it's the same as me going into your house, eating what I want, and just leaving the dirt on the table, right? Taking no consideration of the space or the inhabitants in there before, and this is a very famous part of San Antonio. This used to be Barrio Larrito, So, this is where a lot of the brown folks would come. Some indigenous groups would capture birds, sell birds. Everybody would pull from the water and get whatever resources they could from there, right? So, that's one of the things I wanted to pay homage to, is just like this thing that brought us here, right? So, which is the San Pedro Creek. So, it's kind of almost an abstract water cycle mural. Over here, I have the man crying, and that's turning into rainwater. All this right here on the bottom is the lake. Right here we have the travel, the transportation between people. In my culture, we'll see at the end, there's a woman. There's always a woman who's associated with water. A woman is a water element there. A lot of times when you have ceremony, I'm from the Tiwa Nation, a tribe out in West Texas, and a lot of times ceremony ends when the water woman comes out at the end of the sweat, or the end of whatever type of ceremony. She's the one to kind of finish it. The last word is the woman, the water woman, right? And over there, the snake is, it doesn't have the bad connotation like maybe, Christian beliefs or something like that. A lot of times it's more related to a woman, in the fact that it is water, because the origin story that we have is that the Rio Bravo was at one time a snake. You know what I mean? It's kind of a long, magical story, but ultimately there was a snake, some things happened, and there's water now. You know what I mean? So there's always that connotation to me when I think about snakes, or when I think about water, or when I think about women, right? So that's kind of how I chose to get my own version of this water cycle, from rain to something that we utilize or kind of, do something with, like what we're doing now, all this, right? And then eventually at some point, 1,000 years from now, when we're all dead and all this stuff is taking over, there's still going to be that there, this water woman. So, in the very surface, in the most abstract part, that's what it is, And that's kind of how I go about my process, and then I kind of add my own little stories about it. I think one of the easiest things to pick up is I have these little, what's it called, like patitas, like the foot trails or whatever. That's another practice of me paying homage to the space here, because if you look right behind you on Alameda, there's that pattern right there. So I just pulled that from that building. And Alameda has historical context. One of the first Mexican theaters and stuff like that. So I wanted to pay homage to that. Another thing, the marigolds, something that we're all familiar with, at least in Fiesta. You've seen them at least there, and that's kind of how I go about it. Just put these little things that go into it that I could at least I'm pulling from somewhere. I don't ever want to pull from something that I'm not too familiar with or I'm not intimate with or that I can't explain, because I think you guys know, you're storytellers. If you're telling something you're not too familiar with, people can, whether they can articulate it or not, they could smell it on you, right? You've done that, right? You've been around somebody and you're like, I don't know what it is, but there's something, I'd rather not, And I think even though if we can't put that in words so often, it happens to us visually just as quick, So I think when you look at some murals, you need to see you need to see the hand on there, the artist put this into it, this looks like, I don't even know if this was, I don't even know if I like this, but it looks calculated and kind of thoughtful, right? So I do that with my colors, I do that with my characters, and I think you can kind of see that, right? We have one photorealistic guy right here. We have some guy who kind of looks like me. There's a story behind that, there's a story behind that. There's a story of this geometric coyote character, What is that he's pouring through a thing, and what is all that's coming out? These are all stories that I could, these are all chapters in this little book. So, and just to give you a quick rundown, another homage to the space around us is, this is a buddy of mine, Xavier, right? And he grew up in a very Christian, structured like that family household. His great-grandfather was pastors, all through that lineage. That's what his family is known for, right? And so he was familiar with this church, the St. James one of the first black church. So I put him up there. He's somebody that I know. He's somebody who was excited to be involved in that. So I put him up there, and that little anvil on his hand is the symbol that they used to have. And there's still an operating church on the east side, as a matter of fact. So that's one little homage to this space. This guy right here, when I was painting it, I never really have a fleshed out idea of what I'm doing. I think, or at least for me, I can't say what everybody's practice is, but a lot of the beauty to me is the artistic practice. I like to be surprised myself when I don't know what's going on, right? So, basically I'm just working with a soft mold of loose ideas, but nothing's concrete or anything like that. So I knew I at least wanted a figure there. I knew I at least wanted figures in this boat. And this character right here, there was a guy, they don't have a valet anymore, but there's a guy, Carlos, over here. And he would talk to me because he was out here, the whole time, just kind of killing time. So he would chop it up with me. And he had we had very different viewpoints, and he kind of said some stuff that was I guess I didn't agree with, right? So he was, whatever connotation you get from that, that's the kind of person he was, that's the kind of person I was, right? So I was talking to him one day, and then I was drawing this character. I was like, I don't know if I want to draw him, I don't want to know if I want to draw me, I don't know this and that. And so I kind of I was there drawing with him, and he was talking to me, and he was like, who is that? He was like, it kind of looks like me. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, wait, that kind of looks like you. And so I told him, hey, you know what? That's us if we had a baby. And he was automatically like, what? No. No. And then right there, I was like, oh, yeah. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. Well, that's that little story. That's a little memory me and him made, you know what I mean? And hopefully one day he'll come back and be able to laugh about it and tell his homies, you know what I mean? He'll grow into something valuable to him, But I don't know if he was on board with that right away. But so that's that guy, right? And then right next to him I had a coyote, and a lot of stories that I grew up with, where I developed my visual language was from these stories, right? Before I even drew or anything like that. I was telling Brent, I originally went to school for writing. I thought I wanted to be an author one day. And I tell people this all the time who try to kind of dissect my work. The biggest influence in my visual language is Rodolfo Anaya. And if you're not familiar with him, he wrote Bless Me Ultima, Tortuga, stuff like that. He's just my favorite author. He wrote a lot about my people without saying it was my people. He would write about the indigenous group in New Mexico, West Texas, stuff like that, right? So what that did for me was take the abstraction out of the fact that someone like me could do it. because I saw that somebody, at least like me, talking about the same things, expressing himself in a way that was, you know, given a space to be even talked about, was doing it. So I just happened to choose visual light. It just, I thought I wanted to do that. It just fell into something. That's the little story, right? It goes into this, you know, this woman type thing, and it comes out all these beautiful stuff, you know, and eventually it goes back to this thing, you know. Maybe that's the last of us. Maybe that's the last of the little human construct that we do, where we manipulate the earth. It goes into that, and eventually it turns back into this beautiful water thing like that it was initially before we messed with it. Because I don't know if you guys even know, but like, you can't drink out of that water. It'll make you sick. And a little story I never told anybody is like, you know, I always feel like, you know, maybe this is a little too much, delusional, but I drank from that water before I did that, before I started this mural, because I felt like it needed a connection. It wasn't well thought out. It was impulsive, and I got super sick for like 2 days. Luckily I have a doctor friend, Dr. Graham, gave me some stuff, told me this will kill everything that's in your panza. Don't do that again. That was dumb. I was like, you know, okay, well, whatever. It appeased whatever artistic, egotistical notion that I had in my mind, you know. So, but that happened, you know. So I'm thinking, we have this weird kind of fermented thing that we did that's no longer its sole purpose. It's not the reason why it's here, but it's still serving some utility to us. But, you know, like I said, it'll be gone. It'll be beautiful again, you know. And that's kind of like what that is. That's the most, to me, that's the most beautiful side, you know. And that's kind of like the story of how we do everything, you know. We come over here, we're this first part. Hey, water, maybe we're gonna do something to you. There's a little heartbreak on that, and there's an old saying that kind of like translates to is like the earth is the only love that doesn't take from anybody else, you know, because it could be argued that maybe there isn't even conditional love. We think about our kids, but conditional is that your kid, you know. You don't love your kid as much as you love my kid, you know what I mean? Like, and the thinking is that, you know, the earth, it grows these foods, it provides water, like for nothing in return, just because it's a love. And so, you know, I kind of took that too hard as I was thinking about it, and really wanted to make it focused around the water, you know, without being overt, just kind of giving it, it's almost like a way to tell, you know, it's almost like a way for me to tell this little space in my way how much I'm appreciative, you know. So ultimately, that's what it kind of like, we could all boil it down to. You know, and I got my cats in there.
Yeah, don't talk about the cats. I've had kids on tours here that really respond to the cats.
Yeah, well, the cats, well, you know, there's another underlining story there. You know, it's like I have a bunch of cats. I wasn't initially a cat person, but now I am. You know, one of my favorite beadworks is this little bracelet I have with on my little cats, you know. And, you know, when I started this, when I started my artistic career, decided I was going to do that full force, one of my biggest dreams was to get a lift, you know, a scissor lift, because just, you know, just the utility, it's helpful, you know, to say the least. And you know, I was fortunate enough to get into a place where I could buy one because they're expensive. You know, I never thought I could, but I was able to. And this was the first mural I worked on it. And when I had the towing company drop it off, that same morning, my cat Cookie Boy got hit by a car and died. So that started my day, right? So it was kind of like this, I was on two different paradigms of the emotional scale, and it was just, I've been fortunate enough to never really deal with any big losses, you know what I mean? Just because, you know, the way life falls, but that, you know, that fucked me up. I mean, sorry to say it like in a vulgar way, but like, that's the closest way. And actually that cat over there, she was a little orange cat. And yeah, her name was Cookie Boy.
That's Cookie Boy.
And that's Cookie Boy right there. And again, you know, I didn't know that was gonna happen. You know, initially it was gonna be a woman breastfeeding, but then it turned into, you know, this goddess holding Cookie Boy. So that's kind of what all the cats are about. You know?
What a great pleasure to hear from Rudy with this wonderful work of art, and thank you for sharing with us. Y'all, any questions for Rudy before we get moving again? I know there's a tight schedule, but any questions for Rudy? Maybe one or two? Come on, curious people.
What kind of bottle is that on the bottom?
I kind of keep that vague. I put that there's like a little piece of paper on there. You know, one of my favorite things is my brother would be like, hey, that guy, you know, when somebody would say something like in the Kiwa language I didn't know, like, what were they saying? He's like, oh, he said you're dumb.
The message in the bottle is...
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like, it gives space for you to say, like, if somebody were to ask you, hey, Janet, what does that message in the bottle say? You could say, hey, the artist told me, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So,
Cool.
a little interactive part.
For whatever reason, he speaks one language.
Yeah.
Is that part of your thing?
Pickled to me.
I mean, green.
Pickled.
Well, maybe pickle, yeah.
Pickled.
I just kind of like you know what I was trying to mimic? I was almost trying to make it look like, I don't know if you ever seen a nopal kind of shaved down.
Very good. Got it. Okay. I'm by that.
Very good.
The flames.
The flames right there? Well, that's kind of like, have you ever heard the old adage, like if somebody's talking about you, your ears burn? Somebody's always talking about you, you know what I mean? About that time you did really well, that time you kind of messed up. Everybody's always talking about that person, you know?
Well, Rudy, one final question. Is it a cat at the top with wings and the eyes are crying? Can you tell us about that character?
That's kind of like that's like a cat moth. You know, moths are attracted to the flames, and you know, in my belief, it's just you visit the moon, you visit the stars before you pass on, right? So to me, that's a cat dying right there, going on and being a little sad, and still with a little heart bottom, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of, it's all that. It's another cycle going on over there. It's the cat still there with the other cats, she's just not alive.
Y'all, aren't we grateful? I don't know if Leonardo ever talked about the Mona Lisa, but tonight you got Rudy Herrera and a shared magic. Ruby, thank you, Rudy. We're very grateful.